One of the things that I can't stand the most is when people say that America gets attacked because America deserves it. Well, look, we colonized them. Look what capitalism has done. Look, the slavery, the wars. Look at how we've exploited resources. Look at how we've destabilized entire regions. That's why people hate America. Nobody would argue that America has never done bad things, but the truth is that every empire historically to ever exist also has. It has never been the case that you become a global power by being morally pure. That's just history. That's just how things have happened. It's a lie. It's dishonest to pretend that America is somehow uniquely evil in the timeline of human history. Go find any major civilization that didn't do conquest, war, exploitation, slavery, didn't have an empire. You will not find one. African empires did it, Islamic empires did it, European empires did it, Asian empires did it. I'm not defending everything that has happened in the past. I'm just acknowledging reality. So if a historical wrongdoing were to just explain away terrorism, by this standard, terrorism should be a universal thing. It should be a universal concept that we can observe. It shouldn't be selectively excused in one ideological space, and it shouldn't be, strictly confined to one particular region that holds one particular grievance against another. America neither invented or caused all of the world's historical problems. America didn't invent slavery. In fact, it ended slavery in a civil war that killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And by the way, the West also ended slavery in the Middle East because, contrary to what people would like to be told, the people in the Middle East were carrying out slavery for a lot longer of a time than Americans were. America didn't invent piracy or religious attacks either. In fact, the first foreign conflict that America fought was the Barbary Wars, because pirates in Tripoli were seizing United States ships and citizens. And when Thomas Jefferson went over to ask them why, they didn't say, well, it's because you've exploited our resources, because you're allies with people who have destabilized our regions, because of colonialism. No, they gave a religious justification. They said, you're infidels, you're not Muslim, we're allowed to attack you, we're better than you.
Look, y'all, I don't mean to get on here and be all sentimental and stuff. Yeah, I know, usually that's not what I get on here for. But it's like lately, I've been having real, just deep feelings of nostalgia. And I don't know if anybody else has been feeling the same way. But it's just like I keep thinking back on all the past years and how fun and great they all were. And just how much different life was a few years ago. It's like you have to constantly come to the acceptance and the realization that the world that we knew before 2020 is never coming back. The world is changed as we know it, and this is it. And from this point on, it's only going to change more. 2020 was really something that you could call a paradigm shift. It was an event that changed time forever. And I'm telling you, it's just like a deep feeling on the inside of knowing that the things are finna get a lot worse. They're finna get a lot more intense. They're finna get a lot crazier. And there is no going back. This is it.
I think women are kind of whores from a young age, and once you can't really stop a whore from whoring, and trying to stop her, it's just going to make her want to do it more.
White people took a black Jesus and made him look like them. a lot of people don't understand how important that is. That is the start of white supremacy. That is where it all stemmed from. 500, 600 years ago, they decided to make him white. The earliest renditions of Jesus and the Holy Mother that we have on this planet are black. Why? Because it only made sense, because it's an African religion. And white people have decided at some point in history, 600 years ago-ish, that God must look like them. And to make it even worse, today we have Christians going into Africa, white Christians going into Africa and spreading the word of Jesus, of a white Jesus. I mean, it's sickening, really, if you think about it. And the fact that so many people still believe that Jesus looked like me, they don't understand how important that is. People say, well, it doesn't matter to me what color he was. If it didn't matter, then they wouldn't have changed his race from black to white, because it did matter. It represents a lot in this world. It is where it all started. Then obviously at some point they decided to make Greece the center of, civilization, when nothing could be farther from the truth. Greece would be nothing without African input. They learned everything from Africa. Why? Because Africa had already been civilized and they had already advanced themselves. But anyways, fuck white Jesus.
Never thought we'd say we lit the family farm on fire, but here we are.
Trump decided he wasn't going to give us our farm check. That's fine. We're just going to burn the fucking crops. Let everybody starve.
A field just burned to the ground in Nebraska. A soybean farm still smoldering in Kansas. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a wildfire. It was the farmer who lit the fire himself. Why? Because the harvest couldn't even cover the fuel for the tractor. Because no one's buying. Because letting the crops sit only means losing more. In America in 2025, the very fields that were supposed to feed the nation are being set ablaze acre by acre, as if that's the only way left to stop the bleeding. Farmers aren't counting seeds anymore. They're counting every dollar they might squeeze from crop insurance after another season abandoned. There's no war, no natural disaster, and yet some of the biggest agricultural regions in the U.S. are going under. These are the 10 states where the flames sweeping across farmland are no longer signs of renewal, but a warning that collapse may be much closer than we think. Kansas. In the heart of America, Kansas was once the land of abundance where endless wheat fields stretched to the horizon, and the sound of harvesters signaled hope for a better tomorrow. But in 2025, that sound has been replaced by the crackle of fire, the snap of scorched wheat stalks, and the wind whistling across empty farmland. Wheat prices have dropped below $5 a bushel, the lowest in years. For many farmers, harvesting means taking a loss. No one can afford to rent a combine. No one can pay to haul grain to the silo. So they choose the only option left: burn the fields, wipe away every trace of the season. According to the Kansas Department of Agriculture, over 1/5 of this year's wheat acreage has been destroyed, not by pests, not by storms, but because there are no buyers. Farmers are burning crops just to qualify for insurance payouts. It's legal, but it's gut-wrenching. A 58-year-old man in Salina told a local station, "I just don't have it in me anymore to watch the wheat grow, only to die in my hands." Stories like his are no longer rare. Across the central plains of Kansas, farmland is no longer a symbol of life. It's a graveyard for a system collapsing from the roots up. And the ripple effects reach far beyond the fences. A flour mill in Wichita is cutting capacity due to lack of grain. A packaging company in Hutchinson has canceled contracts with 3 local print shops. A rural bank just shut down a branch due to a wave of farm mortgage defaults. The most alarming part, no one is talking about next season anymore. Some families have put their land up for sale. Others have shifted to renting out their machinery. The rest are setting fires, quietly closing the final chapter of their lives as farmers. Kansas isn't dying overnight, but acre by acre, it's disappearing in silence. No alarms, no headlines. And if even the grain belt of America is retreating in flames, what's happening up north, where winters are harsher and debt has already pushed farmers beyond their limit? Nebraska. Nebraska has never been the center of national headlines, but it's always been a silent pillar feeding millions with corn, soybeans, and beef. In 2025, that silence remains, but it carries a different tone now, one of exhaustion, helplessness, and the quiet collapse of farms no one knows how to save. Since the beginning of the year, grain co-ops across the state have reported record-high inventories. Farmers can't sell their corn, and they can't afford to hire workers to harvest it. Many have left their fields untouched, but some have done the unthinkable, setting fire to them, not to prepare for a new season, but to cut maintenance costs and qualify for a small crop insurance payout. This is no longer an isolated phenomenon. An internal report from the University of Nebraska revealed that in the first 3 months of this year, the number of acres burned or abandoned has nearly doubled compared to the same period in 2024. Videos posted online show flames ripping through unharvested cornfields as if farmers are erasing the very traces of the work they once believed in. In Grand Island, a farm that won Farm of the Year back in 2019 now sits in ruins. Just a few rusted tractors and a crooked fence remain. The owner lost 2 straight corn seasons buried in bank debt and is now trying to sell the land for less than what he put into it. When asked why he didn't hold out for one more harvest, he simply said, "I can't let my son grow up surrounded by the rubble of my hope." Behind every scorched field is a ripple effect. A feed mill in Kearney has cut its workforce by 20%. A corn drying and storage company in Columbus has shut down operations entirely due to lack of supply. In small towns, people are beginning to see it clearly. When the land stops producing, everything else starts to rot with it. No one ever imagined Nebraska would become a symbol of the downfall of American agriculture. But this land, once considered the most stable, is now proving a harsh truth. When supply chains stall and buyers disappear, even the strongest ground can turn to ash. And now, as Nebraska's cornfields fall silent, another land harsher, drier, once proud of its cattle and crops, is entering a far more brutal fight. Texas. If Nebraska is collapsing in silence, then Texas is collapsing from sheer exhaustion. Once a proud land of cornfields, hay bales, and the largest cattle industry in the country, Texas now finds itself caught in a brutal spiral, erratic rains, sudden floods, soaring input costs, and worst of all, a farm market that simply isn't responding. Across South and West Texas, ranchers have been forced to burn off pastures once used to feed their cattle just to avoid the rising costs of upkeep.
Finally, after a long search,